You're listening to episode number 124 of the Transform Your Life from the Inside Out podcast. The title of this episode, obviously, is The Seven Cosmic Laws. In this episode, I'm going to share with you what are known as, and they're ancient, which I'll get into that in just a minute. I'm going to share with you what are known as the seven cosmic laws. And these cosmic laws rule every aspect of your life. So if you'd like to learn the seven cosmic laws in ways that you can take more and have more influence in your life, it's going to say control, but I meant more influence in your life, then keep listening. Hi, I'm Jim Fortin, and you're about to start transforming your life from the inside out with this podcast. I'm widely considered the leader in subconscious transformation, and I've coached super achievers all around the world for over 25 years. Here, you're going to find no rah-rah motivation and no hype, because this podcast is a combination of brain science, transformational psychology, and ancient wisdom all rolled into one to take your life to levels you've never thought possible. If you're wanting a lot more in life, to feel better, to heal, to have peace of mind, to feel powerful and alive, and to bring more abundance and prosperity into your life, then this podcast is for you, because you're going to start learning how to master your mind and evolve your consciousness. And when you do that, anything you want then becomes possible for you. I'm glad you're here. Okay, the seven cosmic laws. There's a book, you can find it online, obviously on Amazon, and it's called, and I've mentioned it before here in the podcast, it's called The Kybalion, Kybalion. Now, the Kybalion has the seven cosmic laws in it. And when I say seven cosmic laws, like I talked about in the introduction, it's not, and I'm not taking anything away from anyone, but Deepak Chopra had, a book many years ago about like the seven spiritual laws of success or something like that. And that's all well and good and great. But that's not what I'm talking about. These laws are believed to be at least written around 10,000 years ago. And you might be thinking, what? Jim, there was no recorded history 10,000 years ago. And I'll get to that in just a minute. But these laws are basically ancient principles that rule your life. And once you know the ancient principles, then you have a lot more influence in the outcomes in your life. Now, how did I come to know about this book? And to be candid, I probably never would have heard of this book had my brother-in-law, Don Javier the shaman, not told me about this. Now, he doesn't have any books. I mean, if you go into his house, he doesn't have a single book in his office. It's all spiritual healing tools. And I mean, no books, none. And being a shaman and a sorcerer, he doesn't get his information from books. He goes right to the source, the divine mind. But many years ago, it was the first year that I met him, and I said, "Hey, what do you want for Christmas?" And he said, many years ago, which this is probably not true. He's leading me to the book for a reason. He said, many years ago, somebody gave me a copy of a book called The Kybalion, and I lost it. So why don't you get me another copy? Now, the truth is, he didn't want a copy of the Kybalion. He was inadvertently telling me to go discover the Kybalion for myself. And what did I do? I went out right away, and this is back. I mean, we didn't have Amazon and all this, and I had to go to a bookstore and special order it and all that kind of stuff. But when I got the book, I dug into it, and I found it to be life changing, because it has, which I'm going to share with you in this episode, it has seven principles of life. Call them whatever you want. The seven cosmic laws, seven principles, whatever. But it has seven principles that completely changed the way that I thought about life. And I also want to be candid. It took me several years to really start. I don't know if I want to use the word mastering, but it took me several years before I came to what I would call more masterful or advanced understanding of the laws. The copyright is around, I don't know, 1904 or something like that. And the author is known as the three initiates, meaning there's who knows who wrote it. It's believed that Hermes Trismegistus, which I'll talk about in just a minute, wrote the book thousands of years ago, like 10,000 years ago, and the manuscript is that old. And it was published in the 1920s or 19 I don't know, 4 or 5. No, I think 4 or 5. Anyway, I don't know because I haven't looked. Even though I have a copy, I've not looked at it in a lot of years. Okay, so Hermes, who is Hermes? So it's believed that Hermes was several incarnations of a great, great cosmic energetic being. He's been associated with even the name Hermes Trismegistus, which means 3 times great. Hermes has been associated with the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian god Thoth. So I want to read some stuff here. I'm going to read a little bit to you in this episode, and then I'm going to break it down for you very simply. But in the book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, um, about Hermes, the quote is this: Hermes is the master of all arts and sciences, perfect in all crafts, rulers of the 3 worlds, scribe of the gods, and keeper of the books of life. Thoth Hermes Trismegistus, the 3 times greatest, the first intelligencer, who is regarded by the ancient Egyptians as the embodiment of the universal mind. While in all probability there actually existed a great sage and educator by the name of Hermes, it is impossible to extricate the historical man from the mass of legendary accounts which attempt to identify him with the cosmic principle of thought. That's a mouthful. Let me just put it this way. He's regarded to be one extraordinarily powerful, all knowing, all seeing cosmic being who, perhaps at multiple times, incarnated on planet Earth. Whew. Okay. And he's believed to be the author of the Kabbalion. And he also wrote the Hermetic Corpus, which is a series of ancient texts. And they're basically full of ancient, spiritual, and cosmic wisdom, which even, in the last several years, science and in particular physics is demonstrating. All right. So that pretty much wraps that up. The Hermetic teachings. What is Hermeticism? And let me read this to you because I can tell you, but I want you to have accurate representation to make sure that I don't um, say something out of that it's really not. But Hermeticism, the Hermetic tradition represents a non Christian lineage of Gnosticism, which is a name for a variety of ancient religious ideas and systems dating back to the 1st and 2nd centuries AD. Now, I want to point out, I want to interject there, even though it says religious, it's not that. It's not dogma. Okay, so I just want to be very clear about that. The surviving writings of Hermeticism are known as the Corpus Hermetica, which is composed of a series of letters from a master, Hermes Trismegistus, wherein he tries to enlighten his discipline. These letters were lost to the Western world after classical times, but survived in the Byzantine libraries. In the 5th century, the letters were rediscovered and translated into Latin by the court of Cosimo del Medici. Yes, grandfather to Lorenzo de Medici, the patron of Leonardo da Vinci and several other Renaissance artists. Oh my gosh, that's a mouthful to get that out. These letters were so influential during the time that they acted as a catalyst in the development of Italian Renaissance thought and culture. Being a Gnostic tradition, Hermeticism is a school of ideas and systems that focus on the pursuit of gnosis, meaning the pursuit of empirical knowledge pertaining to spiritual mysteries. Okay, another breath again. I mean, that's a whole lot to say, but I wanted to give you kind of a grounding. I mean, you can go get the book and you can actually you can Google and you can even find the 7 cosmic laws in PDF format, etc., and download. And many, many years ago, I even had a website. I had the domain name called the 7 Cosmic Laws, and I had all of these in very easy to understand format on a website. And this was literally probably 20 years ago, and I maintained it for a couple of years and let it go. But these are very powerful principles, and I want to go through each one, and I want to explain the principle to you. I want to read a little bit to you about it, not much, maybe a paragraph or two about each one to give you a different person's perspective, and then I want to break it down in the very simple language for you. Okay, so let's get into the 7 cosmic laws. The first cosmic law is called the principle of mentalism. And basically, what it means is this: the all is mind, the universe is mental. So the first principle is the principle of mentalism, the all, meaning everything that there is that exists in the universe or universes is mental. Now, let me read something to you here very quickly, one paragraph, and then I'll break it down for you. The first principle embodies the truth that all is mind, meaning the universe itself at an underlying and foundational level is mental, that all phenomena of life, matter, and energy of the material universe are thoughts of an infinite and universal living mind, which means all things share a connection in the fact they exist within the mind of, air quote, the all. Another way to put this would be like, I'm going to segue here, would be like everything is a quantum field, everything is a quantum dimension, everything is a great grand mystery, everything is a reflection of God, if you want to use that word to concretize it a little more. Let me keep reading here. So let me back up, last sentence, which means all things share a connection in the fact they exist within the mind of the all, as it is put, and therefore they are all subject to the laws of created things. The mental universe, for the sake of experiment, can be explained as an infinite intelligence, intelligent field, and even the nature of consciousness itself, creating a dialogue of thought which dances with thought. Okay, let me break that down and put it into simple words. Because over the years, even though Don Javier referred this to me, I've learned it this way and broken it down into simplicity. If you were to go get the Kabbalion and read the actual Hermetic teachings in the text, which I encourage you to do, it's kind of to some small degree like reading the Bible. Metaphorically speaking, a lot of these and thous and those, and a lot, it's kind of like written because it was translated in Latin like six, 700 years ago. So it's kind of like, okay, I have to kind of drudge through this a little bit, and kind of work to get through this. So I'm going to break down each one of these principles after I share with you the formal definition of it. I'm going to break down and share with you in simple words. Simple words is this: everything is mind, everything is mental. There is but one mind in the universe, and we are all inlets and outlets to that one mind. Now, Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious. I call it, which I've learned, is the divine mind, and we can all tap into, and we are all part of the divine mind. Now, to concretize that physically, let me give you an example. You can go out into the ocean, literally wade out to waist deep and even ankle deep, doesn't matter, and take a little teaspoon and take a couple of drops of water out of the ocean. But you know what? You have those couple of drops of water from the ocean, but it's still the same as the whole of the ocean. And you pour it back into the ocean, and then it merges with the ocean again. The same thing with you is that you are part of everything and you have access. Let me just keep on going here, and I have no notes on any of this, so I'm going to hop around a little bit. But you have access to all divine, confident, cosmic, infinite wisdom. Literally, you are part of the all, and being part of the all, you have access to part of the all through divine mind, which you access through what we human beings call the subconscious mind. In one of my programs, I teach people if you want answers, go to Divine Mind by giving the command to your subconscious mind to go to Divine Mind to get the answer that you want, because your individual subconscious mind is really a part of Divine Mind. And to give you an example there, I've got a question for you, and I have a question at the end of each one of these 7 laws. So one of the questions is, have you ever had like an amazing idea and you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I mean, no one's ever thought about this before. I mean, I'm a genius. I mean, this is like, wow, I can't believe nobody thought about this. And then you get online and you're like, oops, other people have already thought about it. Why? Because we're all connected to the source, which again, quantum field, quantum dimension, God, infinite field, great grand mystery. We're all literally plugged in to divine mind. So have you ever had that experience before? Another simple example here would be is Have you ever been with somebody and you've been quiet and you've been thinking something and the other person automatically says, "You know what? I've been thinking XYZ." And you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm thinking the exact same thing that you are in this exact moment." Well, that happens is because we're all consciousness, we're all part of divine mind, and we are all connected in divine mind. So, that being said, the final question I have before I move on is how can you take that knowing and use that knowing that you're connected to divine mind? How can you use that to transform your life? So, the first cosmic law is that the all is mind and the universe is mental. Okay, the second cosmic law is called the principle of correspondence. And plain and simple, and by the way, when I explain the law here in the podcast, this literally is from the Kabbalion. The principle of correspondence, as above, so below. As below, so above. As within, so without. As without, so within. Now, let me read to you basically what someone else said about this, and then I'll go to my simple words. This principle embodies the truth that there is always a correspondence between the laws of phenomena and various planes that manifest as being and life. Grasping this principle is what allows one to deduce the hidden solutions to problems by looking at what exists a layer above and below the problem, to infer the pattern and shadow nature of what is in between, which means the problem. So, just as the knowledge of geometry allows one to measure the cosmos and map its movements as a dance of spheres and spirals, observing the principle of correspondence, we can come to know the whole of the universe by exploring the higher and lower nature of things which surround the mystery, and likewise discover more of ourselves by experiencing and studying the world we are integrally a part of through the pursuit of gnosis. The micro is in the macro and vice versa. Okay, so what's the simple words? The simple understanding of this is that the physical world in front of your eyes is a reflection of higher consciousness and higher energy. The higher energy is literally interwound with your physical life, and your physical life is interwound with your higher energy, your luminous body, your higher self and divine mind. Now, as I understand this, for example, in Judaism, the Star of David is a representation of as above, so below, and so below, as above, the two triangles pointing opposite directions. When you look at this, recently, for example, I was in Whole Foods. Well, I go to Whole Foods when I shop, and I saw a Romanesco broccoli. Now, do you know what that is? It's basically broccoli, and it's called Romanesco broccoli, but it looks like fractals, meaning, and you can look that up online, fractals, meaning it looks like sacred geometry. There's all these spirals in it. I mean, it's mind-blowing spectacular. And you see things like this in nature, like roses and flower petals and different things. And we're like, wow, how did that happen? Well, it's a reflection in the 3D world, the physical world of divine intelligence, which is mathematics and mathematical energy and physics. There is a divine intelligence, which everything is mental, the first law. There is divine intelligence that runs through everything in the way of consciousness and energy. You know, a simple example would be is how does a potato seed know how to grow into a potato? Or a potato or whatever you plant to get potatoes? Or how does a kernel of corn know to grow into an ear of corn and a stalk of corn? And how does an acorn know how to grow into an oak tree? There is divine intelligence in the seeds. So, in the way that this was explained, let me break this down for you very simply. When it says that as above, so below, as above, and it said basically we have to go to a higher level, what I always go to myself when I'm looking to solve air quote problems, which I don't believe we have problems in life, we have circumstances, and it's a matter of how we interpret them. But when I'm looking for solutions, I'm looking for guidance, I'm looking for answers, what I do is I literally, before I go to bed, I actually toss a question to my subconscious mind, and I will even verbally say, subconscious mind, connect with divine mind and bring me the answer or the solution to XYZ. And there's also an episode here, one of the earlier episodes, probably in the top 30 that I created, meaning the first 30, on Dreamtime and using Dreamtime. It's your inlet to all that is. It's your inlet to divine mind. It is literally your connection to unfettered pure consciousness. But when I'm solving something in my life and I want to go to higher mind, I literally go through my subconscious mind and ask my subconscious mind, literally, you know what? Okay, this is my physical world. Let's go to higher energy, higher mind to literally find answers for this. So that's my simple answer for that, going from the lower, which is the physical 3D body, to higher mind, which would be 5D, fifth dimension, sixth dimension, and higher consciousness and luminousness and luminosity. So the question for you, and I've already answered this, is how can you apply this principle to your own life? Okay. Principle number 3 is the principle of vibration. And the Kabbalion explains it as nothing rests. Everything moves, everything vibrates. Let me read a little quick snippet here. Is this principle embodies the truths that nothing rests. Everything is in motion and everything vibrates. It explains that matter, energy, and even spirit are simply varying rates of vibration. Hermeticists believe that even thoughts have their own rate of vibration and can be controlled like tuning an instrument to produce various results for the aim of self and environment mastery. As your understanding of vibration, frequency, harmony, and resonance increases, so too shall your power over yourself and your world. Okay, this is pretty simply physics, meaning nothing is at rest. Everything is in movement. Everything vibrates. It's simply a higher frequency or a lower frequency. For example, I'm not going to do it because it'd be loud for you, but I could tap on my microphone and it's a hard plastic. Well, that's still composed of electrons, neutrons, and protons, which are moving at a lower speed than, let's say, the for example, wherever you're listening to me right now is electromagnetics. It's you're listening to me maybe through thin air, through your phone, off from iTunes, listening to the podcast, but you're listening through thin air, which is again electromagnetics. That moves at a higher frequency than a lower frequency, which is the microphone. So let me make this very simple for you, and a way to apply this is because everything vibrates. There's a concept called sympathetic resonance. Well, let me go. Let me explain this first. Let me say it simply. Everything attracts its own vibration. Consider that. Everything attracts its own vibration. And whatever you're vibrating, which is in terms of thought, which is the first mental law, whatever you're vibrating is what you attract in your life. You've heard the old phrases before is that love begets love, hate begets hate. What you're thinking is your vibration and your frequency. And now let's go to sympathetic resonance. And this is a concept where, for example, that you can have two pianos in the same room and you can strike, let's say, the A chord of one piano and the A string of the other piano that's corresponding to that particular A chord will also be vibrating and resonating. But nobody's even touched it. Why? Because when you push the A key on a piano, and push it really hard, that sends out sound, and everything is sound, which is frequency. And that sends out sound, and A chords nearby, the A chord of the other piano, will resonate with it because it is in sympathetic resonance. Basically, what this means is that you vibrate at a certain frequency. And why do you think miserable people attract miserable people? And happy people attract happy people? And happy thoughts attract happy things? And sad thoughts attract sad things? Now, you may want to go back to episode number 9, and it's on money. And in that episode, I talk about that because money is energy, it's resonance, it's frequency, that any thought you have affects your feelings. Thought is fifth dimension, feelings are sixth dimension. So when you have a thought, which is left brain, and then you go into the feeling, which is right brain, you're literally also shifting dimensions from fifth dimension to sixth dimension. So we go from thought to feeling to vibration to frequency. And whatever your frequency is, which is physics, because your physical body is frequency and your thoughts are frequency. Whatever your frequency is what you attract back to you. This is why, in layman's terms, they always say what you're seeking is seeking you. So let's take this to practical application. Have you ever met someone and the second you meet them, you're like, I don't know, I just click. I mean, I feel like I've known this person for 1,000 years. Or you meet someone and they seem nice enough and you're like, there's something about this person. I don't want to be around this person. There's something that feels off about them. So let me give you a simple takeaway here. What I teach people to do is stop thinking about how you think about something and start checking in with how you feel about something. One of my friends called me one time and he was looking at two condominiums, and they were very high end condominiums and he couldn't decide. And he goes, Jim, what do you think I should do? And I said, I want you to stop thinking right now and get out of your analytical mind. I want you to sit down, close your eyes, get quiet, and I want you to see how you feel about each condo. There will be your answer. So what he's doing is he's tapping in the vibration by getting out of his thinking and going into his feeling. So the question for you is how can you apply this in your life? If you want my hint, the way there's to apply this is again to get out of thinking and to get into feeling. How you feel about things and what is the vibration of things that you're feeling. Do you feel good about the vibration? Do you feel bad about the vibration? Or do you feel neutral? Okay, the next principle, number 4, the principle of polarity. Now, the Kabbalion explains it this way. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pairs of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. Now, let me explain here a paragraph. It's maybe 100 words, but let me read this here. So it explains that there are two poles in everything and that opposites are really only two extremes of the same thing. The difference being only in degree. An obvious example being hot and cold, both being temperature, varying only in degree. And that there is no clear crossover moment when hot stops becoming hot and starts becoming cold, and vice versa, with no absolutes on either end. The same can be said of light and darkness, hard and soft, big or small, and even love and hate. With love and hate, there's no clear point where one emotion becomes another and when it passes through like, dislike, or indifference. All are merely our perception of the degree. And the principle of polarity exists to explain these paradoxes. Let me read one of those sentences again. All are merely our perceptions of the degree. Now, this principle is important to Hermeticists because it suggests that we can change the polarity of a degree to a higher or to a lower degree by recognizing that it's all, one emotion, but we can change the degree of emotion. Now, let me give this to you in simple words. Don Javier was talking to me many years ago, and we were talking about anger. And he said to me very simply, very quickly, change your polarity. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? Even though I'd read this years earlier. And what he meant is change the intensity of the degree of the emotion. Change the intensity of it all. Okay, so keeping it simple, anger, because so many people experience anger. And honestly, I used to also. I'm not an angry person this day and age. But when I was told to transmute the polarity, meaning shift the polarity on the scale, it's kind of like back in the 70s and 80s when you went to the doctor, you stood on the scale and they had that little weight that they moved over and all that kind of stuff to balance it. And I learned many, many years ago is that my brother-in-law has always said to me, always, which I've talked about a little earlier, change your vibration. And changing your vibration is changing your polarity. And you have the power to do that. To give you a great example, and a question that I have for you, which I'm going to jump ahead here, is is, have you ever been in an argument with someone? Maybe your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, you're in an argument. And then you're heated and you're angry. And then you resolve the argument and then you go to love or kindness or whatever it is. Notice you're having emotions, but you're having degrees and you're in opposite polarities. There was a movie, oh gosh, 10 years ago, and I think it was Steve Carell. I think, I don't remember. But he said something in the movie that literally demonstrates this. He said to his wife that he said, I loved you even when I hated you. Now consider that. I loved you even when I hated you. And it makes perfect sense to me. I mean, I think all of us have experienced that. In this day and age, I recognize that if I'm in a negative emotion, I'm in a negative vibration, and I'm in a negative frequency, and I have to move that. I have to move it to love or to peace or to kindness or to well being, which, by the way, well being is the highest frequency and vibration you can be in. But through this law, I've learned the law of polarity. It's just simply degrees. And I have to ask myself, to what degree do I choose, which everything's a choice, to what degree do I choose to function with this particular emotion? So the question is, and I think it's pretty simple, is how can you apply this to your life? Okay, number 5, the principle of rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its own tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swings manifest in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. Okay, let me read a paragraph for you here, maybe 70 words or so, and then I'll break it down into simple words. When you're in tune with the principle of rhythm and understand that every mental state exists in rhythm, always ebbing and flowing, you can learn to use this principle to your advantage by polarizing yourself to the degree you desire. Then, through awareness of this principle and how it manifests, holding yourself there to keep the pendulum from swinging backwards to its extreme. Now, backwards to its extreme. Earlier I said, which is, well, I didn't say it, it's in the Kabbalion, is that the pendulum swings as far to the left as it does to the right. You ever noticed that if you're prone to mood swings, your mood swing will go far left, far negative, 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 and then it swings back far right. I'm happy and I'm joyful and yippee and yay. It's because the pendulum swings as far to the left as it does the right. And what we want to learn to create is that which we'll get to in a little bit later, the seventh law, where we want to get to in life is a place of balance with our emotions. Because again, our emotions come from our thinking and that affects our vibration and our frequency. So let me take this in the simple words based upon the way that it was explained. The pendulum to the left, pendulum to the right, I explained that. But let me give you one of my takeaways from this, a big one, and it's been a life. How do I say this? It's been very powerful that I've come to know this at a very deep level. Is everything has a rhythm, everything has an ebb, everything has a flow, just like your life. You have an early life, you have hopefully an older part of your life. The tides in and out, the ebb and the flow. But where I'm going with that is the phrase everything is temporary in life. What goes up must come down. So think about that in your own life. Everything is temporary, and what goes up must come down. So I ask you at the end of every one of these, how can you use it? The way that you can use this is the realization that even your moods, for many people, you go to elation and all this kind of stuff, and then you come back down again and recognize when you recognize the polarities and the ups and downs, then we have better influence over whether or not we're going to the extreme lows or the extreme highs. And those are taxing for a lot of people and energy draining for a lot of people. But when we recognize that, now that we know it, we have more influence over the highs and the lows and the ups and downs in our life. Okay, principle number 6, the principle of cause and effect. And the Kabbalion explains it this way, and it's pretty darn simple. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. Let me read a simple paragraph. This principle embodies the fact that there is a cause for every effect and an effect for every cause, meaning that nothing merely happens for no reason, and that there is no such thing as chance. In harmony with the principle of correspondence, there are higher planes dominating lower planes, and nothing escapes the principle of cause and effect. Nothing happens without explanation. Okay, simple words, my words, Jim's words. Everything, again, is cause and effect. Everything in your life is the effect of some cause. Now, slow down with that. Everything in your life is the effect of some cause. Newton's third law of motion, Sir Isaac Newton, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Something is causing something because something is pressing upon something. So many people run around saying, "Oh, I had bad luck. I have bad this. Why can't I get a break?" Well, go look in the mirror because you're the cause of the air quote, the bad luck. Okay? And it's really important that we be responsible in our lives and we accept this, that everything in your life is a result of you being the causation for it. Now, let me give you a huge takeaway here for you, okay? Money. I think most people, and stick with me about money because I want to tell you about a money workshop that I have coming up and give you more details and a link to register in just a minute. People don't understand money. They have it backwards. People want money, which is the effect, not ever stopping to think, well, what is the cause of the effect? I'm going to just be candid with you, and I mean this, please hear in my heart, I mean this humbly. I attract a heck of a lot of money into my life. I don't chase money. I don't count money. I used to, and when I would chase it, it would run away from me. What I do, my cause is this podcast is a perfect example. My cause is this. How many people's lives can I create expansion in? How many people's lives can I raise to a higher level? How many vibrations can I raise to a higher frequency? Because when I do that, I create expansion. And this is what I know. When I create expansion for people, people will pay me for creating expansion for them. What I do not do, which is what I did many years ago, which is what you guys do, you're like, hey, come on, life, come on, universe. I want money, money, money. I need money. I have bills. Chop, chop. I got a visa bill. I got a date. I got a car payment. Chop, chop. My mortgage is due. That's focusing on the effect and not the cause. 100% where I keep my attention on my money is not even how much value that I can create and how much service. Well, it's partly, but there's also polarity to that, which I talk about in the money workshop. But what I look at is, again, what cause and to what degree can I be an extreme and healthy cause in the world so that I reap the benefit of that back to me? Plain and simple, that's cause and effect, and most of you are working backwards. You're wanting the money first, which is the effect, without focusing on the cause. You want to bring more abundance in your life, then focus on the cause, not the effect, and the effect will happen automatically. So, another takeaway here is this: how can you apply? Have you ever felt that things in your life are just they're spinning like crazy? There's all kind of things going on, and you're like, why is this happening? Why is that happening? Again, I alluded to it earlier. Go look in the mirror because you are, according to this cosmic law, the principle of cause and effect, you are the cause of the effect in your life. Okay, let's round it out here. And then I want to talk to you a little bit about the money workshop that I have coming up that I guarantee you will be a huge cause in your life to help you create significantly better effects and outcomes in your financial life. But we'll get there in a minute. Okay, the seventh cosmic law is the principle of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. Okay, let me read something here. This principle embodies the fact that both the masculine and the feminine exist in all things, not just in sex, but in the creative nature of all things on all planes. In harmony with the principle of correspondence, This means that the masculine and feminine exist not only in the physical plane, but also, law number one, the mental plane and the spiritual as well. The principle of gender plays a role in all things generation, creation, and regeneration. Nothing can come into being without the use of this principle. So, the way that it's broken up, and this is like to give you an example of this tangibly that everyone will know, is the yin and the yang. It's masculine and feminine. And again, to recapitulate here, it's not about sex, it's about gender and gender energy. And I can read people's energy very quickly, and I will see some men, like most of my male friends, have female energy. Now, what I mean by that, even though they're heterosexual, they have female energy, which is very nurturing, very loving, very heart energy. And then you might see a woman, for example, that she's like the go-getter. She's the one who brings home the bacon. And the dad is the one who really enjoys being the dad and the daddy and all that, and wants to be a stay-at-home dad. And the mom is the one that has, let's I'm a driving force and I'm a partner in my law firm and all this kind of stuff. Well, even though by gender she is a female, she is exhibiting masculine energy. And even though he is by gender a male, he's exhibiting feminine energy. Now, masculine energy tends to be more driving and more future oriented, and feminine energy tends to be more present and in the moment. So, what we want to do is we want to create balance in life between the driving and the future, and I have to make this happen and I have to make that happen, to being more exhale, more at peace, more centered, more grounded, more balanced. And yes, I have these things to do, these things to create, but you know what? I can do it from this moment. And when you're balanced, literally, like that's why the yin and the yang is balanced. Think about that. Seriously, consider that as balanced. It's not lopsided. It's not like the yang is bigger than the yin or the yin is bigger than the yang. When we get into that place, now we're in a place of balance. And here's the thing, notice that all the keys above, the principles above, are all about finding the balance in them. Now, this is not in the Kabbalion, but if I have to guess, which I'm guessing here, this is why this is the last principle, because all the other principles are about balance and being in the present, which you've heard me talk about on other episodes, and being at peace. So, I'll ask you how you can use this, but let me give you an example. Have you ever felt like you're just caught up in a whirlwind? I mean, like the world just comes and gets you by the collar and just whisk you away. Well, guess what? That's yang. That's masculine energy, and you're out of balance with your yin energy, and you want to balance both. Okay, so let me recap these in just a minute. But before I do, I've mentioned it now for probably a month. But on August 11th, I'm hosting a workshop at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, and the workshop is titled "How the Law of Attraction Repels the Money and Abundance You Want, and How to Become Rich." Now, in this workshop, I kid you not. I mean, I literally over the years, I spent so many years struggling with money, and I couldn't figure out why I had read every book out there, books by Stuart Wilde and Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich and Wayne Dyer and all these books for all these years, and Earl Nightingale and The Secret of the Ages by Robert Collier, which by the way is an amazing book, and the Kabbalion for years prior. And I'm like, Jim, why can't you put it together? Why can't you do something simple like put step one and step number two together? I mean, it can't be that hard. Well, it was hard for me for a lot of years, and I struggled with money for a lot of years. And as I shared with you a little earlier, I'm not that person. I'm not that identity. I'm not in that place anymore in my life. Money is quite abundant, and it flows into my life in abundance and a lot of it. And when I decided to do this workshop, I sat down and literally, I'm like, Jim, how did you methodically, and it's all brain based, but how did you get from like being broke and digging in the back of your car for change and buying literally a box of macaroni and cheese and tuna, and that's your dinner? How did you go from there to where you are today, which you're literally wealthy? How did that happen? And what I did is I sifted through all this. I put together this workshop. I've never delivered it before. I have delivered this content in various ways in different sequences to all of my students. And as you're about to discover, if you watch a short video on the page I'm going to send you to, one of my students, Jake, but he's one of thousands, has gone from literally scraping by on 4,000 bucks a month and paying his bills to like 30 something thousand bucks a month in a matter of 6 months ago learning this from me. It's very simple, but this workshop, I'm going to talk about the 6 pillars that I've learned over the years, and they are shifting your money locus of control, number one. Secondly, is about identity and how identity plays into your wealth and your poverty. Third is your subconscious brain-based habits. Fourth, prosperity consciousness. You can do all the things that you think are going to be the cause of money and you're going to have the effect, but you don't have the effect because you don't have high prosperity consciousness. Number five is separating your work from your money. Yes, you heard me correctly. Separating your work from your money, because what most of you do is you make your work your money, and then when your work goes down, your money goes down. Why? Because you have them illusionary and erroneously tied together. And then number six is self autonomy. Now, you can register for this program. It is not free, and it's not free for a reason. It's normally what I would charge for this is $297. The investment is simply going to be $97 with a 100% guarantee, meaning if I don't blow your mind, plain and simple, if I don't blow your mind, then ask for a refund and it will be issued to you within 24 hours. I also want to share with you that this is the first time I'm mentioning it on the podcast, and this will be mentioned on every single episode of the podcast. And we're at something at 1.2 million downloads, which means we have a lot of traffic on this podcast. The reason I tell you that is, and I have a lot of people, like I think 600 people promoting this. Some are smaller promoters, some are larger. The reason I tell you this is this call is limited to 1,000 people. The reason I tell you that is because if you wait to register later, you're going to be locked out. Literally, you will be locked out because this will fill up very, very quickly. I wouldn't be surprised if it fills up in the next couple of days. Anyway, the domain name, go to my website, jimfortin.com, or go to this domain, jimfortin.com/money. jimfortin.com/money. And you're going to find the page there and you're going to see videos and testimonials. And I'm going to explain more about the program and what it is and all this kind of stuff. But here's the thing. I'm taking 100% of the risk. If you literally want to stop living the paycheck to paycheck, or you're scraping by, or you're struggling, or you're just what I call getting by month to month, or even if you're making money but you want more, this is not for people scraping by. It's not for people living paycheck to paycheck, and it's not for people making a lot of money. It's for all of these groups because everyone wants to do better. And as you're going to discover very quickly on this training, I can help you wherever you are do much, much better financially in your life. Okay, let's recap here very quickly, and then we're going to call it an episode. So, these 7 cosmic laws from the Kabbalion. First cosmic law is the principle of mentalism. The all is mind, and the universe is mental. The second principle is the principle of correspondence. As above, so below. As within, so without. As without, so within. And by the way, that'll correspond to the money training on identity. The next principle is a principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. Remember, I said we go from thought to feeling to vibration to frequency, and you attract back the object of your predominant vibrations. Law number 4, principle number 4, the principle of polarity. Everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has pairs of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. Number 5, the principle of rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides and things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. Law number 6, the principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. And then number 7, the principle of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. And then finally, again, get registered. Go to jimfortin.com/money and get registered for the training, how the law of attraction repels the money and abundance you want, and how to become rich. I mean, who doesn't want that? Right? And even if you don't want to become rich, which by the way, becoming rich is a very noble spiritual thing. See, people actually attribute, most people erroneously say, well, it's about ego. No, becoming rich is noble because now you're connected and you're pulling from divine mind. And divine mind is infinitely rich. And because you are a part of infinite mind, which we talked about earlier, because you're part of infinite and divine mind, you have access to the riches. So whatever you do, get registered for the Money Workshop, August 11th, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, jimfortin.com/money. Thank you for being on this episode, and I will catch you over on the next episode. Do what you can to make it a great day today. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this entire podcast. If you're the kind of person who likes to help others, then share this with your friends and family. You know, if you found value, they will too. So please share via your social media channels. Also, if you have questions, I'm here to assist. You can email me questions to support@jimfortin.com, and I may even use your question for a future podcast episode. Also, if you want transformational content like this daily, connect with me on Instagram. My Instagram name is I am Jim Fortin. Finally, I do have a personal request. I believe that we're all here to help others and to grow and evolve ourselves. Together, you and I, let's help more people. If you would please leave a review on iTunes, and a good one by the way. I'd be grateful, and through your assistance together, we can transform more lives. Thanks for listening.